Hey, this is Emily Soderback of Scarecrow Video's Viva Physical Media.
Hi, this is Matt Lynch, co-host of Viva. The Projection Booth podcast is sponsored by Scarecrow.
Try out Scarecrow Video's rent-by-mail service. Choose from over 155,000 films and get Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs, all delivered directly to your door.
Visit scarecrowvideo.org today.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
MGM presents an entirely different view of the world of crime. The story of two tough men in their struggle for survival against the largest criminal corporation in America, the Outfit.
Put your hands flat on the table.
Who are you, friend?
Macklin.
You hit a bank. You and your brother and a guy called Cody. Before your stretch, Midwest National in Wichita.
Right.
The Outfit owns it. So you know how it is. You hit us. We hit you.
The Outfit controls business, politics, police. It affects the lives of all of us. And Robert Duvall is Earl Macklin. He's being compared to Bogart and Cagney. Joe Don Baker is Jack Cody. Together, they're one of the most powerful teams in motion picture history.
Shut up!
Your damn gun.
Don't ever touch this gun again.
Hard guy. Like you're Dillinger. You're nothing but a damned independent, a heist guy. You got no operation.
Soft hands behind your head.
Macklin and Cody, independent professionals who've got the guts to fight back. You will never see a more exciting story of two tough men against overwhelming odds.
The good guys always win.
The Outfit.
Welcome to the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Join me once again is Mr. Jedidiah Ayres.
Go die elsewhere.
Also back in the booth is Mr. Gary Phillips.
Always a pleasure.
On this special episode, we are discussing John Flynn's 1973 film, The Outfit. It's an adaptation of a book by Donald Westlake, writing as Richard Stark. It was Stark's third in the Parker series. We discussed the first one on our Point Blank episode. Here, Robert Duvall plays Earl Macklin. He's just getting out of prison and find his brother's been murdered for a job they did with their friend Cody. They hit a mob bank and now the titular Outfit is after them. Macklin wants the pursuit to stop and does this with the unusual idea of hitting every unprotected Outfit joint with a vulnerability. We'll be spoiling The Outfit as we go along, so if you don't want anything ruined, please turn off the podcast and come back after you've seen the film. We will still be here. And lucky for you, Arrow Video is releasing a new Blu-ray of The Outfit, and it even features a commentary with Jedidiah and me. When we recorded that, though, that was still when Robert Duvall was alive, and I still feel bad that I had to point out that he was alive, and then he passed away, 2 weeks after we recorded that, Jed? Even if then?
It was like 2 days after. It was really short.
Yeah. That was the curse. So, Jedidiah, when was the first time that you saw this film, and what did you think?
I saw it sometime in the 2010s. I'd been aware of it for a little while. I think somebody loaned me a copy of their Warner Archive DVD. I didn't have cable. I know it aired on TCM or something a few times, but it was hard to find, and I was really excited that someone gave me access to it because I'd wanted to see it for quite a while, and I loved it. A few years later, I got my own DVD copy, and I've watched it several times since. It's always always a great watch. And yeah, I don't understand why it's never had a bigger audience. Hopefully this new release brings some new attention to it, and it gets some wider recognition, because it definitely deserves it.
And Gary, how about you? When did you see this?
Must have been either the late 90s or the early aughts, and or maybe it might even be mid 90s, and it was on TV. I don't know what the hell it was on. I mean, it was like and I recall it was like an afternoon, man. It was like, this is way after Ben Hunter's matinee, which we had out here in LA, but it was whatever it was like, it was like on Channel 4. It was, full of commercials and this and that. But then finally, and this is more recent, a little bit more recent, not quite as recent as last night when I watched it on streaming on Amazon Prime. It was on TCM, as Jed mentioned, and I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it in years, and so the opportunity to watch it on TCM a few years ago, I just thought so much better of the film. One, because it wasn't full of commercials, and it was just nothing was bleeped, and you could sort of watch it continuously. And then I started to sort of more appreciate, this is a bit closer to a Parker novel than quite a few of the other efforts.
Yeah, I didn't see this one until probably around the same time you saw it, Gary. I was doing an article about Payback and was watching as many of the Parker adaptations as I could get my hands on. And we'll talk about some of the ones that came out after Payback. We talked a little bit about this before, Jed, as far as the whole idea of who Parker is and Parker not being Parker. Like, Parker wasn't able to be Parker until Jason Statham played him, which was after Donald Westlake, aka Richard Stark, passed away, I believe, because for years he was like, nobody's playing Parker. Like, Parker is my character. You guys can be Walker, you can be Macklin, you can be this, you can be that. And this wasn't even, I mentioned the whole idea of this coming up after Point Blank, but there were Parker adaptations before Point Blank, and then there would be Parker adaptations after, or I should say Stark, but Parker characters after that. And it's interesting to see how different people played Parker, but I have to say that even though he doesn't match the image in my mind of what Parker looks like, I think that Duvall plays a really good Parker.
He's flat. To use Westlake's own comment on it, he called the whole picture flat and said that's the way he writes the books, and that's the way he was really pleased with the film for that reason. You could certainly argue. I wouldn't hold anybody preferring Point Blank as a movie or one of the other adaptations, just because they all have their own flavor. But Westlake, I think, correctly noted that this one feels most like the books. The Point Blank is so arty and kind of flashy and I love it. It's a great movie. But it feels less like a Parker novel to me than The Outfit does, for that flatness that goes to the not just the camera work and the things like the editing, but the performances as well.
You're right. It's kind of fascinating when I was watching it again last night and thinking about just that very point that, here's Duvall, who's not, who's physically not a big guy, and yet the way he essentially, inhabits the character, and you get this sense of, I think as you point out in your notes to us, Mike, that, there's that great scene where he's leaving the card game, having, braced these dudes to essentially let them know, I want my $250,000. Like, by the way, which is perfect, right? He's like, no sentimentality really about his dead brother, right? He's not really seeking revenge for his dead brother. He just figures, well, look, this is worth $250,000. This is what you owe me. And until you pay me, by the way, I'm going to come at you. But when he's just walking down the corridor of the Biltmore Hotel, I might point out, in LA, you get that, you're reminiscent of that scene of Lee Marvin walking down that corridor at LAX. And so really, and just that kind of way he does it, it really does give you a sense of the no nonsense approach of Parker.
This is one of the first starring roles for Duvall. Up until this point, he'd mostly been a supporting actor, big role, of course, in The Godfather. I believe the first time he had a real, this movie is all about me was THX 1138 in 71. But unfortunately, I don't think a whole lot of people watched that movie at the time. We talked about that on an earlier episode. But here he is just kind of owning this film and doing a damn good job with it. He is so compelling. And yeah, I like that, even though we are pretty close to Parker in the books, I'm trying to remember if it's not first person, right? It's definitely third person.
A close third. Yeah.
That distance is crucial because you really should not ever know what Parker is thinking. You need to have that distance to be like, what is this guy up to? What is he about to do? We don't know, rather than being inside of his head. Plus, Parker's not a friendly guy. Like you're saying, like he just wants his money. And that's the whole thing, even in Point Blank, where it's just like, I just want my money. Like, I don't care about any of this other stuff. Just let me have my money. Let me do my thing. Let me on my own. Because the whole thing we should say is that Parker and Macklin, whenever I say Parker, I'm basically saying Macklin in this movie. He is an outsider to the organization, to the outfit. And this whole idea of there are all of these other thieves that live on the outskirts, and they just want to do their business. They don't want to get involved. They just want to make their money from robberies, these things, exploitation. Leave all that other stuff to the outfit. We're just independent operators. And this whole idea of the outfit, they're so big that they have left a lot of holes. They think that they're impenetrable. So much of this is, I'm going to go back to different jobs that I don't know if they necessarily cover this in the movie as well. Basically, it's just like, all right, I'm going to hit this place, I'm going to hit that place, I'm going to hit this other place. But it's all because Parker, in this case, knows these places are vulnerable because the outfit is so big that they haven't thought about this, that, and the other thing. Me, as a professional thief, I'm thinking things through way better than the outfit has done.
Who would dare rob us? Because we are the outfit. And this comes up a couple of different times, of course, in the context of the movie. Do you know who we are? You know what I mean? Do you know who you're hitting here, man? You're going to be dead in 2 days.
Shitheel operation. He hits the place and they haven't even locked. There's no safe, or the drawer isn't even locked, and shitheel operation.
That's right. That's it.
I love that comment.
Yeah, exactly. In the book, it's several, right? I think it's several people that he entices to do these robberies. Right? Grovefield, I think, is one of them, and several others, I believe. Right? Yeah.
He sends out notices to all the thieves in his network, and he just says, basically, I'm going to take the heat for this. You haven't done these jobs because they're outfit controlled, and you don't want to take on the hassle of dealing with the outfit, but they're after me, and I've let them know I'm going to hit them. So, do your worst, hit them all at once, hit them all, fast as you can. And, all the heat will come at me. So that's why, of course, for the movie, it's better just to have Parker himself or Macklin pulling off.
And Joe Don Baker's
and Cody. What was his name I'm forgetting the Cody character's name in the novel. It's
Handy McKay, right?
Yeah, because he
right.
pops up in a few of the books.
I mean, we basically start where the movie is about 10 minutes into things. Like he and not an anonymous woman, but it's just a woman that he's picked up. There's no love relationship, and she comes back at the end of the book, but really it's this whole thing of he and this woman are sleeping there. Somebody breaks into his room and he takes care of business and is just like, well, who the hell ordered this hit? And at this point, too, in the story, this is the third book. The second book is The Man with the Getaway Face, where he has plastic surgery because he doesn't want the mob after him anymore, the outfit after him anymore. So, and then, of course, it's funny because we just talked about the pilot for Some Like It Hot, which had almost the exact same structure to it, where it was, the Jack Lemmon character and the Tony Curtis character get plastic surgery. they become these other two characters, and then they're thrown almost immediately back into the mix. And by the end of the pilot, their identities have been known. So the whole thing of the plastic surgery was almost for naught. And you get a little bit of that in here where like Richard Jekyll's character doesn't recognize him. And I had to say to my wife last night, I was just like, do you know why he keeps having to say who he is to these different people? It's because he's had plastic surgery. He looked like Lee Marvin a few movies ago, and now he looks like this.
They shaved up a few inches.
Got male pattern baldness in the meantime.
That's right,
I mean, exactly. I can relate. Yeah.
It all kind of works.
But yeah, having those different thieves, because so much of the book, you will leave Parker and go to these chapters, vignettes that they have where it's, okay, now it's this thief in this city. And he goes, well, I've had this job planned forever. And if the opportunity ever came up, I would hit them, but I don't want to because it's the outfit. I don't want this shit coming back on me. Great. It'll come back on Parker. Fuck him. I'm good. You know, it's like the honor, dishonor amongst thieves.
I didn't reread the novel, but I did a graphic novel adaptation that Darwin Cook did. And exactly that. And it starts the same way as the book, which is to say, right, it starts with the woman coming awake, Parker hearing it, rolling off the bed as then a la that scene, the great scene in Point Blank. And actually you see that scene here too, right? Where they come in and they shoot the bed, and the bed is empty.
Which reminds me a little bit, I think there was a similar scene as far as shooting the empty bed. I'm sure they've done that a bunch of stuff. I can think of the hobbits, you know, escaping the Nazgul in the Fellowship of the Ring. But the whole thing with the empty bed reminds me, I think like the Big Combo might have had a similar thing to that too.
I'll be damned, yeah.
And it's always, Parker is always one step ahead of everybody. And that's his superpower, really. He's smart, but he's also very relentless. Like there's nothing that's going to stop him. I love in the book of The Hunter, just that whole idea of, I want Mal Reese's neck between my hands. I'm going to choke the life out of this guy. I'm just going to constantly come after him. I think I described him as like a golem. He's kind of like in the movie, he's kind of like Keenan Wynn's golem, going after what he wants to go after, going after, you know, Carol O'Connor, or going after this character, going after that character, until, you know, at the very end, he finally gets who he needs to get and then kind of fades back in the shadows kind of thing.
I guess it speaks to the elliptical nature of the way Borman did the movie, which is to say, yeah, he in the end doesn't seem to want the money now, right? He sort of pulls back because now really he accomplished his goal, right? I mean, he did everything that he needed to do to get it. He was this relentless sort of force, this machine, and now here at this moment, it's almost as if, well, if I take the money, will I have no more purpose, right? So now I'll just pull back. I'll just go back. Which of course then it gets echoed in the line, Soderbergh's, the line, which is a tribute to Point Blank.
Talking about cyclical, it also is similar insofar as eventually in Point Blank, he's going after, who's the big boss? I have to find the big boss. I'm going to kill the big boss. This movie, basically, it's kind of a redo of Point Blank in The Hunter, where it's, okay, now I'm going to go after, in this case, the character's name is Mailer, the Robert Ryan character, and just go after him. The one thing that they don't talk about that's in the book, which is Parker/Macklin reaches out to another, I think it's like the second in command, and it's just like, if I do this, if I take out this Mailer character, then you have to leave me alone after you come in charge. Like, this is now my mission, is to take this guy out. Like, almost like, forget the $250,000. I just need to ice this guy so that I can live in peace. Cause he just wants to rob places and then not have people in his shit, which is like very admirable to me.
Remember, he thinks he's going to get the 250 when they double cross him, and it's a trap. That's when he decides to take out Robert Ryan's character. But really, up until then, if they'd have paid him the 250, he'd have gone away, right? He'd have gone away.
And that's what they don't understand. They never understand that if you just pay me my money, I will be a man of my word, because he's very honorable in that way.
In that way, that's right. Yeah.
He does change his mind a couple of times in the books. I'm trying to remember if it was in this one or but he, a couple of times he decides, no, fuck it, I'm angry. I got my money and I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna keep going. I'd read several of the novels and a couple of them a couple of times before, I started the year off just reading all the entire series in order. And I'd never done that before, but some kind of misperceptions I'd had about the character were, I thought that he was emotionless pretty, I thought he really was just this sort of sociopathic automaton, just set to take. And he in the books, he doesn't speak a lot, but his interiority is there to a certain degree, and you understand how pissed off he gets about things, and how a couple of times he reels himself back in, and there are sort of ebbs and flows to the series. Like for this stretch of books, he's a little more this way, and then he reins it back in, and he develops a love interest that lasts for a while. That's and there's some playing with the what that means for the Parker Code and things like that. But he is an emotional person. He is a person, I should say. He's not as quite as cold as he presents himself. Robert Duvall is recognizably human in here too. I love the scene early on when the Felice Orlandi's assassin comes to shoot him and shoots the bed, and Macklin grabs him, and Bet starts, after he's really roughed him up, Bet starts begging, don't hurt him anymore, and Parker just like slams his face into the wall, and he's like, "You tried to kill me. Why shouldn't I?" And he calms down after that, tells him to go die elsewhere, but
gives him some money.
Oh, gives him some money. I love it. Felice Orlandi asks for a handkerchief, and he gives him a handkerchief to dab the blood and pick out some of the glass out of his face with, his anger's a little bit spent at that point. But anyway, I appreciated reading the books so close together and realizing, there are little, human, things that might be construed as weakness of a certain kind that he feels the need to rein in. It's not all natural, the coldness. He has to kind of project that a fair amount.
Yeah, it's that series of books, those Parker books, where Stark has him, taking care of the little kid for a while, and then the dog.
The dog, right?
Yeah. I'm just kidding. The Parker books are pretty solid. Sometimes your mileage may vary, but I would say especially these first 3 books are really super solid.
No, that's right. There you go.
And no cute kids, no dogs, no. This is not an 80s cop drama comedy type of thing. This is not K-9 or Sidekick or any of these kind of things. This is much more in that early 70s, just really hitting it solid. I mean, there's a lot of elements of this movie that remind me of other movies. I know that John Flynn, the writer-director, was friends with Walter Hill. It feels like there's a little Walter Hill influence for me, like the picking up at the prison at the beginning reminds me a lot of The Getaway. The whole thing of Macklin, his brother, and the Joe Don Baker character hitting a mob-run bank, and that's why they got in trouble. That's Charlie Varick, right? I mean, we've seen that plot before too, and am I thinking right that this came out the same year as Varick?
I think you're right.
So.
73.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And then you've got Joe Don Baker playing a completely different character in that one, that Molly character, where he's more of a Parker. He's more of the no nonsense, I just want what I want. I mean, the stuff that he says to those prostitutes at the Bunny Ranch or whatever, that's really rough stuff. And meanwhile here, I just want to be friends with Joe Don Baker. He seems like the most jovial, down-to-earth, nice guy. Like, let me come eat at your diner, sir.
Exactly. He just wants to run his diner, man. Like, God, I know. Exactly. And in the book, doesn't Handy want a bar? Or doesn't he have a bar? Doesn't he get a bar eventually or something like that?
He wants the diner. His dream is to finance the diner. He doesn't have it yet. He does in the books go on to have a diner. But in the outfit, his dream is like, I want to make enough money on this run that I can start a diner. And he becomes a contact point for Parker later on in the books that you call Handy's Diner if you want to reach Parker.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's right. I do recall that. Yeah, you're right. Right.
Rather than the diner that's his dream in the movie, since he's already got the diner, his dream is to give up smoking. And
that's right. That's right.
It's like just like in the books, Parker's always saying, he wants, his Parker's interiority is that Handy said this about the diner before. He's going to quit. He's going to open the diner, but he always comes back to do the crime. And in the movie, it's the smoking. And he goes back and forth on it throughout. It's like, no, I quit smoking. No, give me a cigarette. No, I quit smoking. So.
Yeah, you've got those great scenes in the book, which are kind of mirrored here. The whole thing of the guy who sells guns. I love that whole thing in the book where it's he's a private detective, so he's allowed to have like a license for 2 guns or 2 gun licenses, and so he just is constantly like swapping out these guns and selling these guns. And there's this whole like, well, you have to call and say this in order to do that. It kind of reminds me again of Charlie Varick with the whole idea of the photos and like him trying to get the fake IDs and stuff, like this whole underground thing. And the whole thing too here of who's it, Madge Coyle, the Marie Windsor character, where it's like Madge's bar is like the kind of a haven again for the Parker character.
That's to Flynn's credit, he's transposed names and changed things around and collapsed some things, but that you get that sense of Parker's world, the world that Parker inhabits, and this is kind of this sort of slightly above ground but mostly underground kind of world that he moves through, and that clearly, he's comfortable in. I was thinking too, it's funny. I mean, it's not really here in this. Actually, I don't think it's in any of the films, but certainly in the books, there's always a return to or refrain about, Parker's got cash stored in safe houses or someplace hidden, in various parts of the country. So depending on if he's on the run or if he's setting up a job here or doing something there, there's always this cash around that oddly enough, I guess at some point he must have thought about laundering this money, but really Parker was all about the cash, and he would just have these sort of secret stores of cash, in various parts of the country.
We never really see Parker's prime in the books. Could they start with him losing everything? They start with, he's lost his relationship, his identity is burned. He's always looking back on, well, this is the way things were. I always had all this, this network of things, but now I can't access this cash because it's under a safety deposit box with an identity that's been burned and I can't use it anymore. And so I've got, and so there's all, we get this very interesting portrait, pretty well worked out portrait throughout the series of what's Parker like at his, when things are working right as they should be for him. What's it like? What's his life like? It's pretty orderly, but then of course, the fun of the movies is to then disrupt that and, make him either break some rules, do some things that he wouldn't do if everything is working the way it should be. That's part of the pleasure is we get both. We get to understand that, this should all be working very well for him. But things are not.
Is it the Statham movie where, what was the steady girlfriend? Was it Carol? Anyway, there was the steady woman, right? And she kind of like just apparently, I don't know, we never know much about her life, but they had a house somewhere, I don't know, was it upstate New York? Somewhere, right? In the woods and there was a lake.
In the books, it's like New Jersey, and in the movie, the Statham movie, I think it was Louisiana or something like that. It was elsewhere, but it was a little removed from the big city.
Right. Where at times Parker will just sort of go there to be human, right? In between being called back or working up some other new job. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Bet character, the Karen Black character, is 100% wholesale created for this one. Like I said, he's sleeping with that woman at the beginning of the book. She ends up, I think, stealing his gun, and then she comes back later on in the book, I think, to set up the next book, basically. And Bet is, really just added to this story. It's interesting, the whole thing of the cigar burns on her arm, or cigarette burns. And it's like, I don't think that Parker would really give a shit about this woman having had cigarette burns on her arm. Meanwhile, here it's more like he becomes more like the knight errant. It becomes like, okay, I'm going to start this whole thing because this guy, Jake Menner, has called for my death. Who is this guy? I'm going to go track him down. I'm going to figure out what the hell's going on, because there's always the next guy up the chain. And that's what Parker knows, is there's always the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. And having Timothy Carey play Jake Menner, I mean, I fucking love Timothy Carey. And it's such a smart thing. I mentioned Robert Ryan. We mentioned Marie Windsor. This is this great thing that Flynn does, is he's pulling back in like older character actors, especially from these films noir, where it's like, okay, here's Jane Greer. Here's Henry Jones. Here's Elisha Cook Jr. shows up for a second. I mean, it's great. And Timothy Carey, oh, he just lights up the screen every single time. That whole thing of like, when he comes in, Macklin comes in, he's just like, yeah, give it to Menner or whatever. And they're like, how'd they know who you were, Jake? He's like, well, they didn't know it until you said it.
Asshole.
That asshole is so good.
Making a mistake, friend. You don't want to knock over this game.
Collect the wallets and the bills on the table. Get Menner's first.
How come he knows you, Jake?
He didn't. But he does now, asshole.
I kept wanting that big battle between, because they were both big guys, between Joe Don Baker's Cody and Timothy Carey, man. I'm sure at some point they must have had something like that in the script, man, because that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I think that Flynn did a really good job when it comes to this. You talked before, Gary, as far as like condensing things, expanding things, making references, pulling some stuff out of here, there, and the other place. And yeah, just a very, very solid story, and he does try to humanize Parker by the whole thing of like, well, my brother got killed, and oh yeah, Bet's arm got burned, whereas like Parker doesn't need any of that stuff. He's just like, I just want my money. Oh, you're trying to double cross me? Okay, now I'm going to kill you. Simple as that. I don't need any motivations other than money and justice, basically. But Flynn definitely, he knew what he was doing when it came to this, and I have to say, solid direction. I love a lot of these shots. I love, especially when right before he finally sees Menner, the Timothy Carey character, that wonderful shot of he is going down the hallway. Macklin's going down this hallway, and there's a guard outside of a door. And that whole thing, and I love when they go out onto the fire escape, and you've got that great low angle looking up at those guys, and then that great down angle where you see his sunglasses fall. I'm just like, this is really nice.
And that, by the way, that was just Roy Jensen as the guard. He's in all these kind of flicks. And it always like the muscle guy. He had a great part in one of the Harper movies that Paul Newman made. I want to say it was the first one. He's kind of a more expanded part, but again, like sort of the tough guy enforcer guy that eventually has a tangle with Harper. Yeah. Or Archer Harper. again, the name change. Yeah.
And just his whole thing of like, hey, I got a bad ear, can you hit me over here? And I'm glad, Macklin does that, respects him, and knocks him out the right way. The whole thing of like, you aren't getting paid enough to care about this stuff. And the guy is just like, yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm not getting paid enough to care.
The quick ascent to Macklin's superiority in that, thing that communicates to Macklin that this guy's a professional. He knows he's beat. He's not a hothead who's going to fight me here. And they can talk like professionals, and he knows he's got a bludgeoning coming. So he just asks, ask a little favor. Hey, do it this way, please. And, it's really what is so, whether you're talking about con man movies or these sort of workaday thief movies, and even when you're talking about mafia movies, what we really want as an audience, I think, is to feel like we understand how this works. We're the square world. We understand that there's another strata to our existence. And we want to feel like, yeah, I understand. I don't live in that world, but I understand it. And the way that, I mean, if you're doing like John Wick, makes these very sort of Baroque presentation of what the criminal underworld is like, and it's very arch and it's stylized, and nobody thinks that's really how it happens, but it's a big part of the appeal of those films. Something like this really rounds off the edges a lot, where it seems pretty believable, which I don't know that it really does operate anything like this, but as a movie watcher, I definitely feel pretty streetwise when I come out of this movie. I'm like, I know what that's like. Yeah.
Well, no, but you're making a great point there, Jim, which is to say, there's no, fantastic acrobatic stuff. There's no, spinning through the air, shooting a gun, 360 degrees. None of, you're right. There's none of that stuff, man. It's very, very down to earth. Is very much, grounded in our world. And you do definitely get a sense of like, this is, he's, Parker is a kind of blue collar guy, in a certain sense, right? That he doesn't, I mean, he would be the kind of guy in another world or in another mindset, goes to the factory and goes home and drinks a beer and goes to sleep watching football games or basketball games. But that's that kind of sensibility of, this is my job and I'm going to do this job the best way I know how. And you just sort of get that sense of that, again, that single-mindedness, that ruthlessness that he has to bring, because it's the nature of the work. But it's not designed to be this fantastic realm. Not to say there's nothing wrong with certain Baroque style, but that's not what this is.
Even the Continental Hotel and the John Wick movies, where everything's set up to, like, Madge's place is that in this movie, but it's much more believable. It's less, they're the same function, basically. There's this neutral ground where thieves can come and do their business and, it's like a cop bar, except it's a thief bar, I understand people here. And in the books, Madge's place also does square business, but, she's always got stuff set aside for for professionals to come in and have this, they can set up meetings there and they can talk business and they can pass communications. Whereas, it's so arch in something like the John Wick series, which is fun. It's a lot of fun, but this is, this definitely feels like, oh yeah, no, these places probably, something like this probably exists, and it's probably kind of close to this, and the Amos the gun salesman, and things like that are, and especially Richard Jekyll's getaway, his car, his driver guy, so much fun. Again, I watched this movie and then I think, I know how things work.
Well, it's very similar to the way that Tarantino approaches things, by like normalizing everything, these two hitmen having a conversation about, Royale with cheese, or, talking about foot massages, those kind of things. And in here, you've got that kind of like, just here's how the conversations work, and we're much more workaday guys kind of things. And I know Tarantino loves this movie. This was in Cinema Speculation, that book that he wrote, which was really tough for me to read, just because he goes off on so many tangents all the time. I finally, I went through, I copied that whole chapter and I cut out all the bullshit basically and just like made it about the outfit. I cut it down probably by 5 pages. I didn't correct all the errors because there were a ton of those as well. Ton of error. Yeah, he's making references to stuff that just doesn't exist and stuff. You think about that line from Reservoir Dogs, like talking about a manager, like you got to break that son of a bitch in two. If you want to know something he won't tell you, cut off one of his fingers, the little one, then he'll tell him the thumbs next, and after that he'll tell you if he wears ladies' underwear. That's so similar to this, where you've got the take off his shoes, we're going to start cutting toes. I just don't think Tarantino wants to violate toes and feet whatsoever. It's much easier to make it the hand.
We also circle back to, obviously Elmore Leonard and that kind of, you know what I mean? And that kind of, straightforward workaday approach to the gangster life, right? To what these professionals do. Now, obviously his characters tend to be a bit more quirky and off kilter. But nonetheless, there is that kind of, to use Jed's term, that kind of this flatness, but in not in the sense that it's flat as tonally, but more flat, like the way these characters do their business, the way these criminals are criminals.
Speaking of it, kind of like the Bet character, the women in this movie are interesting, especially the Joanna Cassidy.
Yeah, she really needed a bigger media, because I've seen her in stuff where she's just dynamite, man. Where she just got kind of fortunately got. There's really not much. Although it's odd, by the way, as we talk about it. I mean, first of all, but I did like her in her white suit. That was pretty cool. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but you could have really made something of that, I thought. But anyway, but it is also interesting that the Bet character runs over the two Gunzels. And then, but then she seems to be freaked out about having done that, right? So that, it's like, well, I don't want to really do this in your world, Macklin. I really don't. This is not what I want to do.
I'm going to go back to Daddy.
I want to go back to Daddy. I'm going back home.
Well, good for you. Oh, she's dead. Whoa, sorry.
I know. I'm sorry. Oh, damn it.
To compare Mailer's wife in the book to the Joanna Cassidy character here, Rita, I mean, the one in the book is just like, I live in this beautiful house. I've got, all of the stuff that I need. My husband occasionally comes home, but it's really almost better when he isn't here, just because he's always mad about things. And in this, it's like, I really feel for Rita, this whole thing of like, I just want, I like horses. I want to know this. I don't want a fucking football game on the TV. It's just, she's so angry about things. And yeah, it's just, she's a fascinating character. And yeah, in that suit, she just looks so tight in that suit.
Exactly. Oh, and by the way, not for nothing, another reference that we're, because they never really say they were in LA or in Southern California, but I take it some of the scenes were shot out in the San Gabriel Valley, and certainly some scenes are very specific LA. Robert Ryan's character is listening to a Rams game. So there you go.
Twice.
Yes.
2 different Rams games. Yeah.
You're right. That's right.
And
the other time it's on the TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't Jim Brown rob a Rams game in The Split? Wasn't that so?
And he was McCain. He was McCain in that one. Yeah, he was McCain in that.
Gary, I've got a question for you as both a Parker guy and an LA guy. I'm curious why, if you have any insight to why they moved location of both point blank, both the hunter and the outfit from New York, and East Coast settings to LA, and how does that change anything, do you think?
It's funny. I thought about that. I mean, I don't know why. Maybe was it a budget concern? Although plenty of films are being shot in New York in those days, right? I mean, even now, but certainly crime films were shot there. Now, was it because both, by the way, both are MGM films, right? They're both the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and they both have the same, I noticed this, the same typeface for the movies, for both movies when they start. And certainly that also meant, and I was just, doing a little deep dive into it, where, some of this stuff was, shot on the back lot, which was here, which is still here. So maybe I don't know. Maybe it was all a budgetary concern, and there was that, or was it the notion that or there is more of the artistic notion that, well, is L.A. the city of the future, or is New York too overused? I don't know. But it is interesting to think about that they transported both those stories, both those adaptations, to L.A. I'm now being an LA guy. I mean, I dig it, and I like the idea that you see these this other city, right? This other world that this character exists in. Although I do have always had the feeling. I think with both those characters, you have the feeling, both Macklin and Parker, that they're just in LA because this is where the trail has taken them. This is where the hunt has brought them. But they're not necessarily one way or the other about the city, right? They're not. It's just something they exist in. So you can certainly see those guys as both guys starting in the East, or wherever it is that we see that Macklin is in the prison, and wherever we think that. Although I guess it's to the Walker character, the Marvin's version, he is working on the dock, so maybe that is still a kind of a West Coast thing, although it could be East Coast. Anyway, but still you get a sense that they're just sort of moving through this city. LA is the same as any other city in the sense that I got to know the terrain and I got to operate in it. But yeah, although certainly I guess it's better defined. You're right that it is better defined. I think in the outfit that Macklin, while he doesn't call on Grofield and the others like he does in the book, but you do get a sense that he does have a more of a network that he operates in, whereas definitely you get the sense that Walker is somehow, is this outsider that maybe he has some kind of shady past, because clearly Mal Reese wants him for this job, not just to set him up, but knows that he's capable. And maybe in that version, Walker had been a thief, and now he, does a straight job, and now he's been called back into the criminal life. But you certainly get more of a sense that Walker is just Walker, right? That he's just sort of by himself. I mean, there's, Angie Dickinson's character, but that's because he sort of pulls her in. But you don't really get a sense of any kind of network that he's operating in, or that he knows that he, deals with these other people. Whereas you definitely get more of a sense of that with the Alpha, which is then more reflective of, of the books.
Yeah. Well, it struck me both with both, and I guess you could put the split in there too, though. Being a Jim Brown vehicle makes sense to put it in LA, I think.
But I like it. I like that Rams connection. Yeah.
Isn't the Parker movie with Statham, isn't that Florida, I want to say?
Yeah, I think it's basically Gulf Coast. It's Florida, it's Louisiana, I think Texas.
Well, they robbed the racetrack.
I'm a fan.
Where's the racetrack? Is the racetrack in Texas, or because he winds up in Florida, right? Because he's hunting them to Florida, doesn't he? Yeah.
It's
a very sunny
it might
film.
be Ohio or something like that. It's like a Iowa, or some corn pone
little prime cut
sure.
for you. Yeah.
And then the whole thing with the Jennifer Lopez. All right, I know we shouldn't go down that rabbit hole, but man, come on. I never. Anyway, you couldn't. They never quite sync that up.
I'm a fan. I'm a real fan of the movie. Having read the series, I mean, I like the movie all right, but reading the series, and then I also watched all the films that I could, and people may not care for the latter Parker novels as much as the earlier ones, but as far as faithfulness to the book, like that Jason Statham Parker movie that's real close to the book.
Right. It was Firebreak, wasn't the book Firebreak?
It was Flash Fire. So they had they all like the first. It was all those compound words where the second part of the word was the first part of the next title. So it was like Flash Fire, Fire Break, Break Out something. It was But anyway, Flash Fire was a fun book, and I'll sacrifice my Parker credentials by saying I like the Jason Statham movie.
I haven't seen this one yet, but you like to Play Dirty as well, correct?
I do. I did. I've liked it quite a bit. Now I'd say that's definitely that's the Shane Black fan in me coming out more than the Parker thing. But I will say as a definitely it's a pretty admirable it's similar to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where he's just pulling all these references from all sorts of Pulp Fiction. He's doing the same thing in Play Dirty, except all the references are coming from Parker novels and the Grofield novels.
And the Grofield novel,
yeah. So yeah, really interesting experiment that I understand purists are not happy with, and I don't, you don't have to be, but I enjoyed it. I like Shane Black too much not to.
Well, it's interesting that Parker doesn't speak a whole lot, and meanwhile, Shane Black, for me, it's all about the dialogue. So it must be an interesting marriage, and especially, I mean, love him or hate him, but Mark Wahlberg, sometimes not the best actor in the world. Sometimes he's fantastic. I think a lot of it has to do with the director that he's working with. And I would be curious to see how he handles some of Shane Black's dialogue, or if it just sounds unnatural in his mouth.
Yeah. Have me on the Play Dirty episode and we can talk about it.
I'll see if I can get Shane Black back. It's funny that Joe Don Baker doesn't join, like we see him doing his solo stuff, and he doesn't even join up with Robert Duvall until 40 minutes into this film. And then when they're together, I mean, this is one of those friendships in movies where you're just like, fuck yeah, I want to be with these guys. I want to be Karen Black in the back seat, hanging out with these guys, just listening to them bullshit and talk. And they just... that's the some of the times that you see Robert Duvall actually having fun and cracking a smile. And Joe Don Baker is just he's just so delightful in this. And when spoilers, when he gets shot towards the end, you're just like, oh, fuck. Like, this guy, I love him so much. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. I love his whole thing when you mentioned the Richard Jekyll part, when they're out buying that car. And who is it? Cherie North is coming on to him, who just is such a dish in this movie. And just him just like totally ignoring her. And then like the whole, like, when she's accusing him of raping her, they're just like, oh, yeah, okay, another complication. What the hell are we going to do? And I really like Jekyll being like, yeah, she offered it up to me a couple times too.
Yes,
so.
Bastard, you took it.
Yeah, that's right. You took it. That's right. You took it.
She does the exact same thing in a couple years later in Tom Grice's Breakout, the Charles Bronson movie, except that it's not her idea in that one. It's Bronson's idea. Is she's supposed to throw a wrench into, be a distraction for his operation. And she's, he's like, she's like, what do you want me to do? And he says, you just have to jump out of a car and yell rape, and all. And so
that's great. Hey, by the way, isn't it Duvall? He's breaking out of the prison.
It's Duvall. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Duvall, yeah. He's the helicopter pilot breaking Duvall out of. There you go. There we go. That's perfect.
Yeah. So that's a fun movie.
It is a fun movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that Don Siegel? No, it wasn't Don Siegel.
It's Tom Grice.
Grice. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Jonathan Grice's father.
Right. Yeah, man. Right on. That's great. That's a great little movie. That's right. Which was based on a real story, right? The guy did. Yeah, I believe so. The actual incident where now has been done several times, but I mean, in real life, it's been done several times. But yeah, they used a helicopter to break this guy out of the prison. Yeah, landed right in the yard. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a documentary I was just watching about American Skyjacker, I think it was called, and that was the real life thing where they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna pay your girlfriend to learn how to fly a helicopter and break you out of this prison. Yeah,
that's great.
Shit,
that's perfect. That's right. There you go. There we go.
Didn't work out so well.
Yeah, well, yeah. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You know what I mean? Yeah. Shit. It seemed like a good idea on paper.
Well, she could make a career out of doing that role, as far as I'm concerned. I'd watch every one of those movies based on these two.
Yeah, as long as she's got that tight black sweater that she's wearing.
Poor girl's bathrobe is wet too, and that's
there you go.
You just want to dry her off.
I do like, because of the California setting, that this is so much in sunlight. You know, that's one of the things I think about New York is just more of like the griminess, the overcastness and everything. And here everything is just out in the light, like the whole thing with the horses and the little exchange that Duvall and Robert Ryan have. Again, that kind of reminds me of Charlie Varick. It reminds me of when John Vernon is just like, you know, they're going to go to work with you with a blowtorch and a pair of pliers. And, you know, I think he's sitting on a fence with like horses behind him and stuff. Very similar type of set.
Yeah.
But and then that great idea of like the stuff that goes on, you know, like, okay, yeah, I'm going to pay you your money and all that. And then meeting in the men's mission and just having all of the church themes. I think, Jed, you pointed out a lot of like the church stuff that goes on in this movie.
Yeah, there's some parallels given to organized religion and the organized crime, and how the Macklin is outside of that. He doesn't belong to an organization. And, you know, there's a couple different times in the film, like in the beginning where Felice Orlandi and Tom Reese playing the hitmen coming after him. Well, at the very beginning, Reese is dressed as a priest.
That's right.
Right.
When he
That's
kills,
right. That's right.
he kills
smoking a cigar in the back of the cab. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when Orlandi comes after Macklin, before he goes in, he does the sign of the cross before he kicks in the door. And
please don't let me get killed, God, where I go inside to kill somebody else.
Right. Yeah, and then setting it up at the mission with all the guys, who just look. It's the most cheerless looking group singing this hymn.
I think those are the real deal. I don't think those guys were from Central Casting. No, I think we're just going to shoot this thing here. By the way, I would be remiss having gone, like I said, a little bit down the rabbit hole after watching it last night. The white-haired guy who makes the delivery in the mission, which is the setup. I mean, the money's supposed to be in the picture. That guy, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but I wrote it down, is Paul Genge, Genge. And his most famous role, he was a character actor. His most famous role was the shotgunner, along with Bill Hickman, the real deal stunt driver, the two killers in Bullet.
Yeah,
right.
And it's for Felice Orlandi. They shoot.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
And Robert Duvall plays the cab driver.
The cab driver's like, right. That's right. And that's it. And the scene where you were just mentioning it, Mike, the scene where Duvall goes into the bar, but it's during the day. He's looking to brace, I guess it's Vincent or whoever. Anyway, whoever he's looking to brace, right? He eventually, goes in the back there to do that. There's a woman playing the piano and singing as he comes in, and there's a spotlight on her. That's jazz singer Anita O'Day, who had appeared in films in the 50s and will go on to appear in other films. And at that point, though, according to my deep dive, she was just sort of coming out of a period of addiction and was struck, had gone through it and made it to the other side. And somehow or another, for whatever reason, maybe Flynn knew her, I don't know. But they gave her that. I mean, she's not credited at all. There's no close up on her. But that's her singing and playing the piano. Yeah. So there you go.
Talking about music, I love the Jerry Fielding score for this, and they use it so smartly. Like there are certain points where it just really comes in as bombastic, and then there are huge swaths of this movie where there's no music whatsoever. They use it very judiciously, and then if you're looking for connections to other movies, I mean, Fielding just did so many, including The Getaway, which I mentioned before, and this is a great score.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, man.
I can't remember who did the score for Point Blank. And I want to say that I just downloaded like a combination of Point Blank and the Outfit soundtrack, but it might have been, different. I don't think it was him.
No, and it wasn't Oliver Nelson. I thought there was some kind of a bit of electronica, right? In the Point Blank score. Right, or sort of early, that version of whatever it was then, but I seem to recall that. Yeah.
Of course, I'm thinking of that guy in the club screaming, that the African American gentleman is just like, yeah. And then you got the white guys trying to repeat them and everything. It's like, this isn't call and response. Just settle down. Yeah. This whole movie, I mean, it's steeped in the 1970s. I love all the wood paneling that's there. I love that so much of this seems like it was shot on location, even when I imagine our sets. It just looks really legit. Like the robbery of the one office. I mean, God, when Joe Don Baker comes in and just punches that woman in the face, it's just like, holy shit. But like that whole office looks legit. The bar that you're talking about where they don't even like lock the filing cabinet, like all of these places, like there's a real earthiness to every single one of them. The heist at the casino where they go in, I mean, that sequence in the book takes so much, and talking about the whole idea of the bathroom that leads into the cash room and these guys that are running the cash room. I love that. And I love that he's so faithful to that. John Flynn is very, very faithful when it comes to a lot of these robberies. I think there's really only like maybe one or two that he doesn't represent in this film, including the one which, the whole idea of like the guy who gets this money and he puts it in a jacket, he flies to another place, he changes jackets with a guy and then flies back. Like that one's missing here, but a lot of this other stuff
the money's in the jacket. That's right, the money jacket. That's right. Yeah, Darwin Cook uses that in the graphic novel version too. Yeah.
I love those Darwin Cook novels, man. That art style of his was just beautiful. Oh
boy, it was great.
And I could tell what a fan he was of these books.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And absolutely. Yeah. No doubt about it. And they I guess IDW did the graphic novels, but they republished The Hunter for the first time in hardback, and then they had Cook. He just did some single illos for the hardback version of The Hunter. Yeah, which I got that, which is really it's just nice to have it because it was a paperback original. I mean, I guess all the Parkers were until they came back, right? Till he came back.
Last eight, I think.
Yeah.
After Butcher's Moon.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. After Butcher's Moon.
I don't remember where I gave up with the Parker books. I remember reading those voraciously when I was younger, and I think it was somewhere around like the gold coin score or something like that. I don't think I made it that far into stuff, but those first three were just killer. And I think there's audio versions now available of all of them. I might start listening to those just because the one of The Outfit, the narrator of that was really solid and just did a great job with it. Because again, you have to capture that toughness in your voice without, exaggerating and sounding like a cartoon character.
One thing I thought was interesting on this, I rewatched it last night. I hadn't picked up on it before. There's I believe only two dogs in the film. One is named Soldier and the other Judge. It's both criminals who own the dogs, and they call him Soldier and Judge.
It's Eddie. It's his brother's dog. Soldier.
Eddie's dog is Soldier, and then Cherie North's Richard Jekyll, and their dog's name is Judge. And just something about these criminals having these faithful servants or whatever who are they're useful, but they're definitely below them, and naming them after public servants is kind of, I don't know. I don't know if that was intentional, like as a theme. I figure if Robert Ryan had a dog named Captain or something like that, it would really have nailed that home. But with just two examples, I'm not really sure what to make of it.
And by the way, in the book, isn't Ryan's character named Bronson?
Yes, it is.
It's Bronson, right? Yeah. And Bronson, and right, and to the point, Bronson's a carryover from the first book.
Hunter. Yeah.
From the Hunter. Right. And Fairfax. Right? And Fairfax. Yeah.
Fairfax is there as well, yeah. Fairfax, William Devane in Payback, and then the William Devane connection with Flynn's next film with Rolling Thunder. Holy shit. What a movie with that one, too. And talk about male friendship. The Tommy Lee Jones, William Devane connection there.
Speaking of soldier, I got a mission for you. Let's go.
We were talking about the older character actors and stuff, because I think Flynn originally wanted, I can't remember if he said this to Shock Cinema, I think he did, that he wanted older actors to play this cast, like the main cast, like Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, Angie Dickinson, which would be another Point Blank connection. I think that Jedidiah and Duvall are perfectly cast in this, but it almost... Because Lancaster and Douglas were still very viable at this point. This is 1973.
I could definitely see Burt Lancaster as Macklin Parker character. Absolutely. Yeah. No, you could definitely see that.
Having Robert Ryan, and poor Robert Ryan, I mean, I don't know how much longer he lived after this, but he just looks so gaunt.
This one, and I forget what the other, but this is one of his final two roles. And he was dead before this was released.
Oh my goodness. Ooh. Oh my God. Yeah.
And this is 5 years after The Wild Bunch?
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Wild Bunch was 69, maybe. This was
69.
Oh, 69. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
I want to say it was
69.
I'm pretty sure it was 69.
But man, he was when he was, younger cat, man. Oh man, he was terrific, man.
That face, that gaunt face that he has, just catches the light so great.
And he was unredeemed in was it Odds Against Tomorrow, right?
Which Flynn worked on. Yeah, Flynn worked on Odds Against Tomorrow. He was an assistant to like Richard Fleischer.
I'll be damned.
And so I guess that's probably where he met Robert Ryan. And I mean, Odds Against Tomorrow works as, now I have not read the novel that one's based on, but it's it definitely Parker-esque, and precedes Parker, but as far as movies that could be Parker movies that aren't coming from Parker books, I'd put that in that company.
Gary, you mentioned at the beginning just like how tough this one was to see for a while, and Jed, you mentioned the Warner Archives disc, like that was it for a long time. Like I had the VHS, you had the Warner Archives disc, and it's just like finally with Arrow bringing this out in a proper release, and like I was so glad to see how many special features there are on this and how many great people are, like their names are alongside our names are alongside theirs, I should say. And just like, wow, fucking finally, because like going back and doing the research, like people didn't really care for this movie when it came out. Like Richard Canby's like doesn't attempt to do anything except for pass the time. The Washington Post said that it was a lugubrious derivative thriller. The San Francisco Examiner said it was had dismal direction. Journal News said it was new heights of ineptitude. I mean, yeah, they were just slamming this like crazy. And I'm like, I don't see this being a problem whatsoever.
Exactly. Like, that's really kind of amazing, isn't it? I mean, is it? Did they expect something different from Duvall, or did they want an epic like The Godfather? You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Well, and the posters at the time, like they were selling this picture in the right way. I especially love the one poster image, I think it might be Italian, where it's the shot of Robert Duvall shooting Timothy Carey in the hand. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is what I want. This isn't selling me anything apart from what this movie is, and I fucking love it. Yeah. I was kind of cold on it the very first time I saw it, just because it does take its time, but now it's like, kind of in my 50s, I'm just like, this is exactly what I want. I don't know if in 1973 how I would have felt about the the joke in the freeze frame ending, but which I love that they end with a freeze frame. Talk about a 70s staple. It's great. And I love that, Joe Don Baker is okay. He's well enough to joke around at the end.
It's interesting to think about, right, the critics' reaction to this at the time. Well, and then, things that are happening in the world and toward the end of the Vietnam War, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know, maybe all that's in the mix of like and how they perceive this kind of film. And again, I think, as you pointed out in the notes, Mike, that, if you show Parker, Parker's not a likable guy. You know what I mean? He's not, you gotta warm up to Parker, but only at a distance. You know what I mean? He's not the kind of guy, you're going to invite over for dinner. Not that he would show up, but you know what I mean? So it is, so it's that cat, or unless, who's going to rob you, but there's, so maybe that's part of it because you do humanize this character. Certainly, Macklin is certainly more humanized in a certain way than Parker. But it is still that feeling of that kind of drive, that kind of one-dimensional thinking in a certain way, but also he thinks three-dimensionally in terms of how you plan these things, but going toward that goal. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe because you can't really, it's kind of a buddy picture, but it's not really a buddy picture. And maybe that's part of it, Mike, that baked into this is the Parker DNA. And maybe that's somewhat, off-putting to, at least at that time, to critics,
Well, and the last time that Parker had been on screen was 5 years earlier with The Split. And by 72, we're starting to get the funnier Westlake stuff. I mean, with like Dortmunder and the Hot Rock or Cops and Robbers. I mean, the year after this, The Bank Shot would come out, which ironically had Joanna Cassidy in it. And then I didn't know that Westlake created Super Train. Do you guys remember that?
Oh my God, no.
It was, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay. You remember this show. It was basically like a train going from stations. It was like The Love Boat, but on a train. And I've only seen one episode, and that episode I watched because Timothy Carey was in it.
I'm digging up Super Train. That's great. That is hilarious. That is perfect.
But yeah, I don't know if people just weren't ready for that. And I don't know, like what kind of weight Duvall was carrying at this point. Like I said, he had just done The Godfather the year before. And even with that, there's a lot of humor to Tom, that when he meets with the studio executive and it's just like, call him a guinea and a wop. And he's just like, I'm Dutch Irish. And he's like, all right, my Kraut Mick friend. Like you see almost like a little smile on Duvall's face. And I'm like, all right, yeah, Tom Hagen doesn't take any shit, but he does have a little bit of a sense of humor. He's probably the most reasonable of the brothers.
I think it was James Gray, the director, who was saying, maybe it was, it may or may not have been James Gray. Some recent director talking about the best. You know what? Maybe it was Christopher McQuarrie. I'm going to say Christopher McQuarrie talking about Duvall. Being what's the greatest Duvall performance, and everybody wants to say, oh, it's Apocalypse Now. It's Charlie Don't Surf, and get this. They said no. The best Duvall performance is Tom Hagen. Is the very soft-spoken fan, because Duvall himself is this kind of explosive, larger-than-life presence. He said that when he's really, really dialed down and kind of quiet, and like that's Duvall's really tamping down a whole lot to get there. That's quite a performance. So.
Now, Kay, I can't take that letter because in a court of law, it could be shown that I know where Michael's whereabouts are. Yeah. He's just so calm about all that. Has to have a drink before he can go up and tell his Don about the son being killed. Yeah. Gentlemen, is there anything else we want to talk about the outfit?
I'm specifically trying not to retread too much of the commentary just for the...
No, I think we've hit a good balance here.
I guess we spoiled it for some who are going to listen to this, and then hopefully others who took your advice, Mike, and turned off in the beginning, and then go watch it, and then they come back. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no. If you listen to this and we ruined it for you, sorry. But yeah, I warned you.
Exactly.
I warned you.
He does. That's right. I told you. All I want is my goddamn money. I don't understand the problem here. Really.
Can't tell it to you any simpler than that.
Right. Can I tell it to you any simpler? I mean, really.
Well, yeah, hopefully this is now going to get a reappraisal and other people will be able to enjoy this as much as we did, because this is a fun one, and it definitely, for me, in the Parker canon, it's definitely up towards the top. I've seen quite a few, not every single one of them. There are still some that I haven't tracked down or,
Well, you mentioned another French one that I knew about, the Goddard thing, but I didn't know about this other one you mentioned, though, which...
Oh, the Mise à Sac?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that one.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Is it around? Yeah, I like to see it.
I found it on some, Russian torrent site or something like that, but...
I'm going to have to hunt for it. I have to hunt for it. Okay.
Gary, I can hook you up. I'll send you a link to it and subtitle file and everything.
Excellent.
So,
you're the man, man. And I say that as somebody who saw Slayground, and I defy you to tell me what that movie is about. But that's probably the subject of a whole nother time.
I love how open Stark is, or Westlake is, when it comes to his own adaptation. He's just like, nope.
Constantine, the actor who played the Parker character in Mise à Sac. You recognize him from other French crime films, especially, but just a very he looks formidable.
Very good. Oh, good. Well, I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I really need to watch that. I can't remember what the story was with that, but I think I was the one that uploaded it to a torrent site with the hopes of it actually getting subtitled, and then somebody subtitled it for us. So freaking fantastic. So fan subs are, a blessing from heaven.
There's a film credited.
Oh yeah,
called,
you talking about The Man with the Getaway Face?
Yeah, and I can't find hide nor hair of it anywhere. But yeah, it's credited to Westlake as an adaptation. Both on IMDb and Letterboxd. But I can't find it. It's from 1963. So,
oh my goodness, is that right? That's incredible.
It looks like a Spanish language adaptation, but
like done in Mexico.
Yeah, Una cara para escapar.
Mexico or Spain, I don't know. Yeah,
I'll be damned. Really,
but
that's amazing.
I can't find anything. Have never been able to find that one, and to the point where I wonder if it was even finished. Like maybe it was something that was started and shot, but never released, or for some reason. But it would definitely be interested in checking that one out.
So it's not totally a bootleg production, or?
I mean, it's on IMDb, which can't really be trusted for a lot. But there's a wonderful website people need to check out called The Violent World of Parker. It's just violentworldofparker.com. And Trent, that runs that site, he does his due diligence. So what he was saying is, what are the possibilities here? Here's what I see as them. The movie likely has nothing to do. The movie has nothing to do with The Man with the Getaway Face. This is an overzealous IMDb editor scenario. That's probably most likely. And he just lists off all of his things. I'm like, all right, but he's who I worked with when it came to Mise à Sac and trying to get that subtitled. But yeah, I highly recommend that if people enjoy Parker, enjoy our conversation, definitely check out Violent World of Parker, because he keeps up on this stuff too, which is great. It's not a dead site. He actually is writing about Play Dirty and things. So
yeah, no, I did notice that. That's right. That's a good point. Good point.
I love his passion. I mean, anybody who's that obsessive about stuff like me, please keep it up.
You should definitely. I would point people to another Parker site too, called Tough Business. I don't know if you know this site. It's newer. It's not quite as exhaustive as that one, but it's run by a couple of women, Alyssa and Shay. I'm not sure what their last names are, but they've got a bunch of cool artwork. They're going to be featured in this Arrow release as well.
Wonderful. Nice.
Check them out. But they've got a site called Tough Business, a Parker site.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks really good. Well, I'm glad, all these years later, and we're still talking about Parker. It's fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this discussion of The Outfit. I really appreciate this. So, Gary, I know you've got a new book coming out at the Hall, but I do want to thank you for sending me Three Bullet Opera recently. It was really nice seeing a very familiar name in that.
It was Dr. Labusa showing up, so yeah, just a quick blatant self-promotion dropping when people hear this episode. I have a heist novel called The Hall coming out, and you will see in the book where I've been inspired. My character O'Connor, who I've used a couple of times before, is definitely inspired by Parker and his misadventures. And I freely acknowledge this, in I say it, and it's going to be in print in the book. I riff on two of the Parker novels, in particular one we brought up earlier, The Split, which was the 7th. And in the book, they rob a pro game. They rob a college game, but it's the same setup. It's a stadium that they're robbing. And in Deadly Edge, I think Westlake liked that idea so much. In Deadly Edge, they're on the roof of an old arena, and they're cutting through the roof during this rock concert going on. And again, the same setup where they're going to rob the box office. So in the Hall is modern day, so there's really no box office to rob because everybody uses credit card and Venmo, etc. But to folks out here in the Southland, they'll recognize who I'm modeling this on. There's a tech bro who owns a pro basketball team, and he's built them a new arena in Inglewood, which is the city next door to my city, LA. And at the bottom of the arena is one of his hidden swank bunkers, because all the 1%ers of the 1% are all into these really fancy, well laid out bunkers, waiting for the collapse of society or the zombie apocalypse, whatever it is the hell they're waiting for. But through some insider information, a la like a Parker novel, O'Connor assembles a small, tight crew, and they're going to rob the bunker during the opening ceremonies.
Sounds fantastic. I can't wait to read it. I always enjoy your stuff, Gary.
I appreciate it.
Where's the best place for people to keep up with you and your stuff?
I actually have a website that somewhat is kept up because my wife is the tech person. It's just gdphillips.com.
And Jedidiah, what's going on with you lately?
You can find me on this Arrow Outfit release and a couple other releases coming up that I'm excited to be part of. But yeah, you can find me at the Blue Sky is the only social media I'm on right now.
Well, and I follow you on Letterboxd. It's always fun seeing just how many frickin' movies you watch, sir.
If I got a superpower, I guess that'd be it, right? And I don't watch good movies mostly. That's mostly trash.
You watch a lot of stuff that I'm just like, ooh, I want to check that out. So I appreciate your Letterboxd for sure. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you want to hear more of me shooting off my mouth, check out some of the other shows that I work on. They are all available at weirdingwaymedia.com. Thanks especially to our Patreon community. If you want to join the community, visit patreon.com/projectionbooth. Every donation we get helps the projection booth take over the world.